Hello, welcome everybody. We are back for yet another episode of Laying It Down with Big D, the show no one's watching yet, so you could be the first to discover it, sponsor it, whatever you want to do. But we do get to enjoy doing these interviews. And today I'm joined by a very special guest, ParkS Cast. ParkS, I don't know your full real name. Do you want to share that with the people?
Scott Park, as everybody gets wrong because they automatically assume it's ParkS because of where the name is. No, it's Park, P-A-R-K.
Okay, and so it's ParkS, I bet, for Park Scott, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. So I tell this occasionally. My uncle is named Stephen Park, and so his nickname growing up was Spark. And so then I started doing gaming, and it was like, oh, I can't take Spark. That's my uncle. So then I took ParkS because I thought I was super slick and cool. And now it has just given me anything but. It's been misery ever since.
So yeah, you've just been ParkS Casts ever since, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, before Cast, I had numbers behind it that were like significant to high school, but like honestly, it's been ParkS pretty much for forever.
Probably 69 420 if I know.
No, I'm not that. I'm not that crazy. I'm not there yet.
Okay, well, we're here laying it down. I got my shoes off. You can see my nasty socks on camera there, but I blame the Meg gave me a stern reprimanding for having my shoes on the bed in the first several episodes. So we've knocked that business right off. But Park, we're gonna say it's singular now and make a big deal out of it every time this episode. So and maybe forever.
Yeah.
Park, I met you through doing ESL Impact broadcasting, and I mean both of us are kind of in the same circles trying to uphold some NACS, which feels like a region that's often very overlooked or scandalous or whatever. We were even having a little conversation about certain scandals in the NACS region prior to recording. But can you introduce yourself a little bit? How did you get involved in... Let's start with casting, and then we'll go into Counter-Strike and esports a little bit more deeply.
Yeah, I mean, I started casting in about 2020, and it came about because of I was ESCA Cash Cups. So the original ESCA Cash Cups, when they first came out, it was, hey, it's a 2-day tournament. We're going to invite 2 teams. Everything else is open bracket, as many teams as possible. They're going to play through until there's only 2 teams left, and those 2 will face off against the 2 we invited on the next day, and you'll have 4 guaranteed matches. So semifinals, and then you had the first versus second, and then you had third versus fourth. And so at the time, ESCA had a stream for it. They had Exner and Phi doing like a professional stream, but it was open IP because it's ESCA. So anybody else could join and do it. And so I did that. I just started going into the games, and I was encouraged by my friends to do it because they're like, dude, you like when you're in game and stuff, you're talking like you're crazy. Like you cover so much with when you're talking. So I used to just talk fast all the time, and yeah, the ESCA Cash Cups were a huge thing. I got noticed by a few people because I think at the time I had my largest stream, which was, I think it was a Triumph versus it would have been a random team. It was Triumph versus some other ECL team, MDL at the time. And that got me noticed by a few people, and all of a sudden I'm joining LCA. And at that time, it was like maybe 6 or 7 people, and it was just kind of let's hey, we're a small group. We got 10, 15 teams that want casting. Let's do it. And that's where the start comes in for my casting career. And it's been a slow rise since. It's been more so filling other lines than just casting, which has been fulfilling for me, I want to say.
Yeah, because you're starting to now, if I'm not mistaken, you're starting to get more into the production side of things and some behind the scenes work now, right?
Yeah, it's a mix. So I still like to cast. I still want to cast. I think I haven't itched that bone enough yet. I want to really. I've. In terms of swimming, I've gone I'm in the shallow end of the casting area, right? I haven't really pushed hard enough in that spot. But I mean, in the meantime, like I noticed that there's a little bit of a gap or somewhere I could fill in terms of other things. So in I mean this yeah in late 2023, I want to say, yeah, we're 2025. In late 2023, Vincent and I bought into LCA, and as a result, like we became a part of the ownership group with Chris Werewolf, and that was the beginning of the changing over to trying to do a little bit more on the background, managing stuff. I started doing a little bit of production recently. Well, actually, not recently. I did production. I've done production with ESL Impact Community Cast streams because I want to keep those at a high quality, and I know my caster friends can do the production side, but they don't like to. And that's where I'm like, hey, I'm interested in doing this. I'm more than happy to sit here and let them do their thing and, bump them up and bump the stream up and keep that going. And at the end of the day, the only thing I asked was like, if we're going to do that, like it's going to be on my stream because I'm the one running everything, which everybody was okay with. And we've done it occasionally as well, where like we pushed it to other people's streams as well. Like when one season we did it all on Benny's channel, one season we did it all on my channel, one season we were going to do it all on Sneaky's channel. So that's the kind of idea that it was, because originally it was just the three of us for ESL Impact. But then on the other side of it, FlyQuest Red, I've been starting to do a little bit more production on that side because their usual production guy, Will English the Fourth, he's busy with some other projects that they've got coming through on the FlyQuest side. So he knows that I know what I'm doing on the production side, and it's been a learning experience for sure in terms of what is production, in terms of what do the casters need, in terms of what do I need to do day to day on the management side. So I don't like not doing anything, and that means that I get myself into a whole whack of trouble because I just want to do work. I just want to do stuff, and that means that whenever there's a hole to fill, I try and do my best to like, hey, I have like no idea what I'm doing most of the time, but I have some idea and I can work with that. And that's kind of where everything comes in, of doing everything. I just kind of like, oh, this needs to be done. Cool, I'll do it. Why not? Let's see what happens. And it's sort of a jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. But at the end of the day, I enjoy what I'm doing, I think is the best thing. I enjoy sitting here and going, yeah, like let's just run something. Let's just have fun with it. Because I mean, I have a full-time job. I don't have to worry about finances as much because of the full-time job.
Well, and that's good. And it sounds like you're definitely the type of person to just dive in and see where it takes you. And I think I'm the same way as well. Like I'm more interested, as I have done the casting thing for a couple of years now. I'm interested in trying to explore my other options in the scene because, and I'll ask you about this as well. For me, it feels like the casting industry, it can be a bit cutthroat because there's only a certain amount of jobs, and not that the people that are involved are mean or nasty. Quite the contrary. Everybody really upholds each other in this scene. Is like, oh, you're a caster, I'm a caster too, and they'll help each other out. But just like actors in LA trying to make it in Hollywood, there's only a select amount of gigs, and especially those like big lofty ones that are gonna give you the full experience. So yeah, I find myself trying to navigate the space in a different way, and I think like what you're doing lends itself to it is jack of all trades, master of none, but like in the gig economy, that's kind of the best thing that you can do because you can take any of those jobs and you can fill any of those roles. So I think that's awesome that you're doing that. I have a question.
Okay.
That is gonna. Well, I have many questions, so bear with me. That's the whole point of this here.
Yeah.
What does LCA stand for?
Oh, this is a good one. It's lights, camera, action. So
No, it's not.
it is. It's lights, camera, action broadcasting. It's I would say it's a little known secret. It's actually like a joke within LCA that like nobody knows what LCA means. It means lights, camera, action. It's it. You have to remember, I did not come into this with like I like I said, I bought into the ownership side of this. I bought into the company. And I mean, by that point, we'd been around for 3 years, right? So it was kind of one of those things. Just, well, it's a good name, we're gonna use it, but everybody just says LCA because it's simple, it's quick. and it doesn't make us sound like jackasses by saying lights, camera, action every single time. But no, we've definitely made jokes about it internally. Like LCA is fill in the blanks of what you want LCA to stand for, and that's what it can stand for.
I think it stands for little Counter-Strike action. That's what I think.
Sometimes with that camera work, yes, it can be little Counter-Strike action. I will definitely be the first to say I'm not the greatest at doing observing, which means that kneecap streams happen a lot.
What does that mean? Kneecap streams?
So
do you turn on the auto director?
yeah,
and
sometimes
auto director shows you his
the auto
foot
director
fetish.
Yeah, the auto director just sometimes says, hey man, we're trying to get a camera angle for you, but while we're doing that camera angle, we're just gonna like move the camera from being here to like down here, and all you see is third person view of their kneecaps. It is the dumbest thing. It's only a CS2 thing as well, because in Go this never happened.
Yeah,
Only a CS2 thing. I will say the auto director has gotten a lot better over the last year, but there's so much that needs to be fixed with that, man. Like we talk about the laundry list of things in CS2 that need to be fixed. The auto observer is definitely, it's trying its best. It's tried to get upgrades, so it can be a bit more predictive, and it does a bit more dynamic work. But the downside of that is it has these issues where sometimes it'll just lock in on, and it'll switch camera point of views. Like it'll try to go to a different person, try and fix the issue, and every single one of them is at kneecap range. So
yep.
there's still a few issues with it. I'm guessing that it's a back burner idea right now, especially with kind of the updates that they're pushing out. But it's one of those things that we look at and we go, well, you kind of have to take what you can get at some points with it, because it's like, man, it's either that or it's you're pushing a caster to then also do broadcast, like to also do observing, and that it's already a taxing thing to do just casting. You're asking for a whole other skill set on top of that, and not everyone can do that, and it's a very select few that can, and those that are able to do it are just crazy good.
I'm staring into the camera because you just complimented me, because I do both observing and casting when I cast. So
hey man,
appreciate that.
I'll give it to you 100%. I'll give it to you. It was also a compliment to myself, but I do a shitty job, so
No, you don't. Well, I do a shitty job as well, because I don't have like any camera angles locked in. I don't do any nice, beautiful flybys or anything like that. It's just player perspective, and I still miss most of the kills on there. So probably shouldn't be patting myself on the back too much. But yeah, I mean that's one of those things that I don't think people really think about when it comes to casting, is like, at the higher levels of casting, like getting to go to Frag 18 recently, it was so exciting because I just sat on the couch with the microphone and watched the game of Counter-Strike. Or when I come and cast Impact with you, I just hop in the Discord and stare at a game of Counter-Strike, and I have a co-caster, and I don't got to worry about anything other than sitting and talking about the game, which does alleviate a lot of the pressure. So if you're curious to see what casters do, go do it. Go do a broadcast yourself. And you'll have a lot of appreciation for the smaller community casters that are just out there by themselves, producing, observing, and casting all on their own. And yeah, and then it opens all these other doors to where you might show up at LCA. I don't know, or you might buy into LCA or some kind of company.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of buying in, we don't really. It's very close knit. The reason that Vince and I bought in was because somebody was on their way out. They were moving to something else, and it was very much like, hey, I'm not going to have anything to do with this anymore. So I wanted to go to somebody that will have something to do with this. And now, of course, there was the monetary side of it, because they put in money on it and they wanted to get something out of it. And I was like, that's fair. I would want the same when if I eventually leave, or if LCA gets bought in some kind of form, I would want some kind of payout, and that there's structure for that, of course. But yeah, I mean, it's really funny you talk about like people going and doing a broadcast, and it's one of the most interesting parts of like grassroots Counter-Strike in North America specifically, is you got a lot of people that they understand what we do. And even if they don't like fully get it, they don't see all the work that comes into it, they appreciate the work that we put in. And then there are other people that are like, why would I pay you guys? What's the point? What am I doing? Why?
Right.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like,
I get no return on investment on you.
It's like, yeah, that's esports. You do not get any return on investment. Like the the way that big sports makes money, as an example, is TV deals and is gate receipts, man. We're online on a platform that gives me ad money. So that's the TV deal, is the ad money. And if you subscribe or whatever to the channel, if that's available and if that's coming to me. So there's the gate receipt. The gate receipt is me being paid by the team. Like that's the whole thing. I'm getting paid by the team. That is like, so there's no gate receipt for them to make money off you. So yes, it's a hole. You're putting money into a hole. But some of the I do that for $10. Okay. Do that for $10. Like, go for it. I do it. And I will say, one of the number one complaints I've always had when it comes to having guests on to do broadcasts, because I've done a lot now. I have a lot of experience with bringing on players or ex-players that have very limited broadcasting experience, but they know the game, is I bring them on, and then like half the game they trash talk a team. They
Right.
sometimes they don't even pick. Sometimes it's both teams. They just trash talk them, and it's like you're not doing a good job. You think just
Right.
criticizing the whole time is like, it's not. You need to bring, the criticism can be warranted, but you need to bring it in a constructive way that people can understand, instead of it just being, oh, I don't like them, because that's all I think it is. And I get it, right? I get it. It's one of those things of like, they look and they're like, you're getting paid to do this. Well, yeah, because I'm worth the money. I'm not saying you're not worth the money for playing, but nobody would watch you. Nobody would see the game if there wasn't a broadcast, and there has to come with parts to that. So yeah, it's one of those things that like, it angers me a little bit, but I also look at it and I go, these are people that don't use our services already. They don't want to use it's fine. It is fine. We are okay.
Right.
We will go and we will do the work for the people that appreciate the work that we do. And we will go and make great broadcasting, make great casters, because we know what we're worth, and we know what the goal of LCA is. We know what that is, what it's all meant for, and that's a huge thing for us. Is developing casters, is finding talent, is getting them consistent work, because at the end of the day, this is a first step, right? You're not going to make a crap ton of money off of us. There are a few people that do, and they are worth the money. Believe me, they are worth the money that we pay them when they do as much work as they do, and I love them all for it. But at the same time, this is a first step. This is to get somebody to go to ESL. This is somebody to get them to go to CCT. This is something that will start the journey in a more professional way. So I would say, you get like the amateurs that just doing kind of like what you're doing. I think you're doing a way better job than just amateur, I would say.
I like that.
But the amateur is somebody who just on a random Friday night back in the day, ESEA Cash Cup comes on, they turn on their stream, and they just spend. I mean, my streams were like, they went for 5-6 hours, because I started round
Oof.
1 and it was 7 rounds and it was nonstop. A game would finish. I would take like a 5-minute. Okay, I'm gonna look at the matches, see what's around. Oh, there's a match that hasn't finished yet. We're hopping in, and I just keep doing that. And then some people would just follow a specific team. I did as many teams as possible. I would come out of those days with like 10 matches casted. Now, some of them are half matches, but anything and everything. I just swept it up and I ate it. So I've learned better since. Don't do that. It's bad.
Yeah, definitely pace yourself in casting. That's what I've learned as well. There was when I started, I had the I would be like trying to cast a best of 3 every single night for like playoffs, and like I would, when you start, you think, okay, you're going to be the most excited caster ever, and if you put that kind of energy into like doing a 2 to 3 hour broadcast 5 nights a week, you will burn yourself out.
Yeah.
And not just yourself energy wise, you'll burn your throat out.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the things that I've learned a lot about from casting, is like how to be better at taking care of my voice, how to be, and then it starts coming into taking care of your body better. That's not happening right now. Big D got a big double chin for for the holidays, but we'll work on getting rid of that. Well, and I appreciate the kind words about being. I still view myself as an amateur broadcaster, but like I'm working through to the like semi-professional level where I feel like I'm doing more of like what LCA is doing, where
Yeah.
I'm trying to like put on a decent broadcast. I don't have all the graphics or anything, but uh, yeah, these things come with time, and you learn. I know when I started, I don't know about you, you sit there and hope, okay, I'm hoping somebody discovers me, then we get that big contract with an org, and it's just the gravy train comes rolling
Yeah.
in, right? And then you realize, oh, this is something that takes years to build up, because you have to grow your audience over time. Um, and that's my segue here now for a question for you. How does one effectively grow an audience? How does one make themselves more known in the scene?
So I got a little bit lucky, and this is where a big factor came in. And I thank Note to this day for this. Because of the ESEA Cash Cups back in the day, HLTV did do the day two stuff. They put streams up on their thing because they had money. There was money involved, and it was enough that it made sense to do it. And it was also a big event. So I would message Note, uh, who's a great guy. I would message him on the day and say, "Hey, man, I don't know anybody at HLTV, but I'm casting this match. I would love if I could get my stream up on the match page." And for the first 2 or 3 events, yeah, man, no problem. Sure, I got you. And he'd send the info along, and they'd post it up, and I would be one of the streams. And more than likely, I would be the only one on there because my plan, and this is the second part. My plan was always to do the games that nobody else was doing, because somebody would watch those games, and if it was a lot of bettors who just wanted to see what was happening, as much as I'm not a big fan of betting, I'd be okay with it. That's a nice cat.
It is a nice cat. He loves Counter-Strike. He's a Russian blue.
Amazing. Um, yeah, so I would put myself on games that nobody else was doing. So like you'd get like Triumph versus Chaos, for example. I wouldn't put myself on the Triumph versus Chaos game. I'd put myself on like the Velos versus I can't remember. It's like I'll just like whatever team, Prospects GG or whatever they were called back then, Josh RT's team. And because I put myself on that game, I wouldn't necessarily have all the numbers. Like everybody would want to see the big game. All the play, they want to see the big game. They want to watch. But I'd get like the friends. I get the betters that were like, oh, this game has interesting odds. I want to see what's happening. I get the people who are like, oh, well, there's the big game going on, but maybe in between I'll watch the other game because it's going on a little bit longer. It's less of a stomp, like that kind of a thing. And that was very helpful. And then at one point, Note just kind of messaged me. I was like, hey man, listen, I super appreciate that you're doing these. However, coming to me is not the right idea. I've sent your info. Can you send me your info? Let's set you up with an HLTV thing so that you can just add your stream to whatever match page. So to this day, when we do ESL Impact, when we do everything like that, I don't have to go to HLTV to ask them to add my thing. We have to do with LCA Broadcasting's channel. We're trying to work on that, but it's a hard thing. I got fast tracked because it was like he's doing this every week. He's got plenty of in the background, plenty of it. Let's just add him. Like just put him in the system, and I don't have to ever worry about it again. I don't have to look at this. We don't have to look at this. It saves us time. It saves him time, and it makes it more flexible for him. So I got really lucky in being on HLTV as fast as like possible, basically. Like there are people that I work with today that have done streams on their own, and they don't have the ability to do that yet. And it's one of those things of like it's a little bit of HLTV sometimes just doesn't respond. And a lot of sometimes they just look and they go, you don't meet our criteria, but we're not going to say anything to you about it. And that's one of
Right.
those things of like it angers a lot of people. But yeah, that's where I got lucky of being able to start forming a bit of an audience, because I could just put my name onto the games and I could do whatever. And so then there are a lot of so what happens then is you start to build up a bit of an audience in terms of people that will consistently come back. The other part that kind of comes to that of building the audience is having a personality outside of casting is really good as well. And you will not get as many views, you won't get as many people in your chat, but the whole point of it is to be open and welcoming to people that do come in that are worth the time. Like you'll have random people come in and they'll start shit talking or whatever. Depending on the mood, you get rid of them, you don't get rid of them. Keeping your audience kind of under, being able to defend the audience that you like, I think is the biggest thing, because you will have bad actors and people who just want to troll you come into your chat, and that's okay for a little bit. If they're not harming anybody else, I have thick skin. I can be sassy. I don't care. But as soon as they start messing with the flow, start messing with the vibe of the chat, I don't have any qualms about pulling the cord and getting them out of there. And I'm very lucky that I have a few friends that come in and they'll watch my streams, or they'll lurk the streams and they'll kind of watch the chat. And if they see anything, they know how I am. They'll get rid of it, and I trust them completely. So it's building the audience is a big thing. It's showing who you are as a person. It's showing it's having it's having good matches, or covering matches that nobody else will cover. And that's a really good part of it. Is just, I've always been like, I'm gonna cover the stuff that nobody else will cover, because somebody out there wants to watch that match. That's always been my thing. If somebody wants to watch the match, let's get them the ability to watch that match. It's on HLTV. It's on Face It. Let's just watch it. And that's a big reason why, like, I always push, like, when I talk to women's teams, I always push them, like, listen, if you need somebody to broadcast, let us know. We'll work on it. Even if it's not through LCA, even if it's out of the kindness of my own heart to just do it for free, like what Nouns have been doing. Nouns have been using Floofies, and they've been using, like, Dudley recently. That's great. Their games are getting out there. People are watching. People love to watch, but they need that ability. And so, previous few seasons they had LCA doing stuff, and they had Connor, and it was great because people were watching the games because they had somewhere to watch. Even if it was intermediate, like, nobody cares. They just want to watch their friends. They want to watch their team. That's the big thing.
Yeah, that's exactly like, and that's why I also encourage anybody that's interested in getting into casting, like, just find one of your friends' games and start casting them. Do it for them. Do it so that you can practice how to see if you even like doing it,
Yeah.
because it's really easy to sit and fantasize about, oh, well, if they just put me on the big stage there, I'd bring so much heat to the game, and I know so much about, like, yeah, but, like, you don't actually know if you like watching the ebb and flow and finding the storytelling elements and all of these things that go into casting. So yeah, just get out there and help your friends, and like you said, as you mentioned, mentioning Dudley and Floofies especially, like, there's a lot of people in this community that are doing a lot of free work because they just love Counter-Strike, like, and that's what we're all here for at the end of the day. And also, I'm the same way, dude. Making a chat or an audience an inclusive space does not mean that it's exclusively for one group of people. It means that if you can't come in here and just be a respectful person, that means you need to go. That's it.
Yeah.
Because everybody should be able to feel like they can comfortably watch it.
Yeah.
Like,
It's such a
it's
funny
amazing
thing.
how
It's such a funny thing. Just because, like, and this is the big thing with
it's
women's
weird.
Counter-Strike. With women's Counter-Strike, it's such a, and we've seen it. I don't want to say people are changing their tunes, but I think with Blast Bounty as an example, like the
Shout out Imperial
shout out
FE.
Imperial FE, they have been doing so much good work. I think one of the biggest things is, like, they just, people come in and they just expect, because it's an inclusive space, because women are playing, women are watching, they can do and say whatever. Oh, but it's inclusive. It's for everybody. No, it's for those who can behave themselves and be respectful. As soon as you're not respectful, you don't belong. And
Right.
it's one of the, is, somebody who, especially with Shimmer, and I love Shimmer to death. I absolutely had a great time working with them. And, like, the stuff that they receive, like, they kind of joked about it. They were like, "Oh, I'm gonna go check the HLTV forums on what they're saying underneath our game," and, like, they trans players in Counter Strike receive the worst of it because, one, they're women, so yes, they're women, and they're getting shit for that. And then two, oh, you're transgender. It's even worse. So they get it twice over. And I applaud how thick a skin that they all have as a result of everything they've gone through. Opportunities that they don't get as a result of being trans and a woman. That's kind of the whole thing, is they don't receive as many opportunities. There's not as much looking on them, because the attitude, like, there's the whole, like, they just are perceived to be something that they're not, and it's crazy. So yeah, in terms of keeping an audience, it's like, you very quickly can establish a norm, and if people don't like that norm, they can go somewhere else. And that's the thing I think that I learned really quickly was it doesn't feel good when you go from like 15 people to 5 people the next stream, but I would much rather have the 5 people there that are invested in what I'm doing and care and actually like are there for a good reason versus 15 people and like 10 of them are hate watching, or they're there to, as soon as something bad goes wrong, to just say something completely out of pocket and ruin what everybody else's experience is. So I don't look at the numbers as much anymore. Even as it's a metric game, I don't look at the numbers as much anymore because I've learned that as long as I know I did a good job or I put on a good show, yeah, I might not get noticed as much. That's where networking comes into play a bit, but I'd much rather have a good chat and have everybody have a good experience because it's kind of like going to a movie theater. Like you don't want that random person that just kind of shouts whenever something happens. I don't want that. I want everybody to
Right.
be respectful, enjoy what they're seeing, and then at the end be able to come out and go, "Man, I really had a good time."
I love the movie theater analogy because yeah, it just takes one jackass in the audience to ruin the time for everybody else. That you can have a packed movie theater. I remember seeing a movie a couple of years ago, right after the pandemic ended, and it was the first time I saw like a full house.
Yeah.
It was a movie, and the theater was filled. One guy sitting dead center of the movie theater, shouting everything that he thought out loud at the screen, and like what did I hear people talking about as they left the
Oh,
theater? They're like,
that
could you
one
believe that
guy.
guy that was just shouting the whole time? Like, yeah, like it just takes one person. And so, it may seem like, yeah, we live in interesting times, and a lot of what we experience in Counter-Strike and esports casting is kind of a microcosm as to what's happening in the world on
Yeah.
a whole, or at least on the internet especially. But we won't dive too far deep into outside Counter Strike. So let me bring it back in for some Counter Strike. What are your earliest memories of Counter Strike, and what is the thing that like got you? How long have you been playing? What got you into it?
Yeah.
Etc.
Yeah, the big stuff. So I first started watching Counter-Strike in around 2016, about the time of ESL Cologne, the major. And I got into it because I had been playing. Oh, I'm gonna sound so weird. So I was playing World of Tanks when I started playing World of Tanks when I was 13 years old, and I did it with my dad, and I really liked it. And then I discovered that there was like a competitive World of Tanks league, and there was North American teams, and they went and they would play in like Ukraine. They would fly to Ukraine and they would play against the European teams, and they sucked. They always did not do well. And as they would try and build super teams to go, and they would crush North America, and then they'd always lose to the Europeans, and it sucked. And I was like, this is really cool. Esports seems interesting. Cut to a few years later, I kind of bounced around doing other games. I'd played and had groups and stuff. And eventually I found out Optic Gaming existed. I think I watched a COD tournament once because I was really starting to get into shooters. And I watched some Optic. I loved the Optic. It was Visions. It was called Visions. Their season. Talking about all the esports teams they had and everything. At that time, they had COD and they had a Counter Strike team. And I binge watched basically the entire documentary, and I could see like they get Shazam in. They got the team, and I was like, oh, they go to events. And so I looked it up. I downloaded Counter. I didn't download Counter Strike. My friend had Counter Strike, had it downloaded and was playing it and was showing me it. And we weren't good. We were 16 years old. We were doing whatever. And the majors tab was up because the ESL1 Cologne major was happening in 2016. And I saw that Optic had played. And I watched and I went, oh, they didn't really do that well, but hey, that's pretty cool. And they played. I've always it's really interesting. I've always been a fan of Flipside, and this is why, because they had a green logo and it was like Optic and Flipside. They were green logos, just super cool. Um, and so then I kind of followed a little bit, just lightly. Um, I convinced my I didn't convince anybody. No, I didn't buy Counter Strike at that point yet. I don't think. I think I Somebody gifted it to me. That's what it was.
Buying Counter-Strike
I know. Back in the day, you had to buy Counter-Strike, and
back in the day.
back in the day. So that friend gifted me Counter-Strike to play with me, and my computer couldn't handle it. But I still like logged in. I tried to play. I didn't go well. We kind of moved on, played other games, went back to COD, and but I never stopped following Counter-Strike after that. Like I kind of always I followed through Optics eyes for a little bit, and then I want to say shortly thereafter I joined the military, of course, and then I had money, I had things I could do, and I started following. I started going on Twitch and watching Twitch streamers play, and I found Mythic through a Dren. I found Mythic through Dren, and the reason I found it through a Dren is because I was watching. I went back and I watched the Columbus Major stuff to see what the big hype was about Coldzera and all the stuff around that. Because that was at the time that was super big history, the hugest moment in Counter Strike, super big, and I was like, I want to learn about this a little bit more, and so I started watching a Dren, and Adren was playing for Mythic, and they had just gotten out of Open. They were in their main season, and from there, kind of cascaded to I followed the big stuff. I followed the small stuff. I watched Mythic get into MDL through main and losing to like players like Zelsis and stuff, and um, that's kind of where it started. Of just like I started watching, and then eventually I had money, and I got a PC that could, or no, I was my mom for Christmas / my birthday, because they're around the same time. It was a big gift. She got me a PC that I still have to this day. It's over on the other side of my dresser. It's long been outmoded, uh, but yeah, she got me a PC and I started playing Counter Strike, and I've never been good, but I always had a voice for it, and I always had friends that were okay with that. They were always chill with just people that just wanted to play, right? It was just they wanted to play, and we did that. I did some esport. I did some actual. I tried playing open for a few seasons. I suck. I have not played since. But yeah, that's kind of where it all started. Was in 2016. I started following Optic, and then I got into the grassroots by following Mythic like 6 to 8 months later, and I've been big fans of them ever since. And that's kind of where everything starts right there. Is 2016. So 10 years,
I love
nearly.
I love that. Yeah, you're approaching your 10-year veteran coin here.
I you know what? I did get my 10-year veteran coin. So I don't know when I got Counter Strike, but I only remember after 2016 really playing Counter Strike. So I guess at some point I had it.
You must have made. I mean, those coins as well go back to CS 1.6. So if you had a Steam account that you played the original Counter-Strike on at any point,
Yeah.
it clocks it from that originally. So
Yeah.
if you had played that in like 2006 or 7 even on some random computer and then logged in on 2016, you would have had the 10-year veterans coin. But in our hearts, as a caster, as an actual player, as somebody invested in the scene, you are approaching that 10-year veteran coin, and that's brilliant. Well, I was going to ask you, you brought it up, the joining the year. For those of you that don't know, ParkS is from our great northern neighbors, Canada.
There it is.
Up
north.
north.
I got the little artwork. It's the only piece of artwork in my room, other than that piece right there. So I've got a Canadian. It's a display plate. So it's a metal thing that just it's a picture of Canada. And then below down here is a famous actor from a Canadian comedy, Letterkenny. I met him last year at an expo, and he actually recognized who I was after I talked to him a little bit, because he's like, "Oh yeah, I've checked out your streams once or twice. Like, you do such cool work," and I had a great conversation with him. So yeah, I'm from Canada.
That's amazing. Yes, the whole point is ParkS is from Canada, and you joined the Canadian military.
Yeah.
What did you do in the military, and then did that lend itself to you like kind of falling in love with Counter-Strike at all? Because Counter-Strike is definitely a much more tactical game than any of the other first-person shooters. Not that it directly correlates to military tactics, but
yeah,
it's got that higher level of thinking involved in it.
It's honestly, it's not super deep. I joined the military when I was 16. I was a reservist for high school. It was a co-op. And at the time, I had a lot of family in the military. Both my uncles were two of the three of my uncles were in the army. Um, and it was one of those things of, sure, why not try it? You know what? I big history buff. I love learning about World War II, World War One. I love this kind of stuff. I might as well at least try it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I can move on with my life. I'm just a reservist. It's okay. I'm not signing a contract to seal away 5 years of my life or anything like that. And so I did it. Um, I wasn't the best at it. I was definitely on the lower end of, and I was 16. So I in a class, there's probably 16 of us, it all doing the co-op together from various schools in the region, and I was one of the youngest. I think I was the second youngest, and you could kind of tell like I was developmentally like a lot behind everybody else because by this point they're 18. They have been going to the gym for a little bit. They know what they're talking about, that kind of stuff. And so I I did the basic training. I did a little bit of winter stuff. I did a bit of driving stuff, just basic stuff. And I at the end of it, I was like, this really isn't for me. I was starting to lose weight from stress and all that kind of stuff. I just said it's not for me. But I really, I went into it kind of going for some structure in my life, and I think also looking to find my voice because I've always been, and this is still true to this day. It's even more so now. I've always been a bit of a floater, a bit of an outcast. I just kind of float. I don't. I have a good amount of friends, but I just kind of float between. Like you'll have like a group, and I just kind of float between them because at the end of the day, I just kind of always do my own thing. I'm always like I do. I keep myself busy. I always keep myself busy. I always kind of just do what takes my fancy. And if that means I'm with people, I would love to be with people. But if that means I'm doing it solo, it happens. So, um, that kind of comes into the casting and being solo and kind of being my one man show. But also, I want to do stuff with LCA because that's a group. Um, no, so the structure and all that was really good. It's also it's a bit of a joke, but at the same time very serious. It's also been a big thing. Like when I talk to not necessarily like executives, but like org owners and higher management people at these at events and stuff, they look at them and like, man, you're a really like you're an old soul. Like you're wise beyond your years. And I go, yes, it is because of I joke it's because of the trauma. It's actually um because of the army and because the amount of responsibility they put on you. And I did it at such a young age. It was very much like, oh, this is kind of what to do in my working day, in my everyday, is just you have to be a steady, stoic person for this kind of stuff. And that's not to say I'm uncaring or unfeeling about stuff, but they there's a certain way to handle pressure, and I learned very early on how in most cases to do it. Sometimes I still have my issues, and that can't be helped. Everybody has their breaking point. But yeah, it was very much join the military, get some structure in my life, learn who I am as a person, and that's carried on through. And I think a lot of people appreciate that. I know, like specifically, um, Esports Canada, the CEO Melissa, when I met her in person for the first time in Saudi Arabia last year, that was one of the first things. We were just kind of sitting down, and I had my food, and I was just I'm kind of just doing my own thing. It was a breakfast, and she just kind of looked over at me. And she's like, "Can I just say, like, you're such an old soul?" And I was like, yes, yes, I am. And she's like, that's like, it's crazy that you're 24 years old and you act as if you're like 30. And I'm like, I found who I am. I found who I'm comfortable being. And um, it's not always the best person, but it's who I am. And I take that every day and I just go, listen, I'm not going to change who I am. I'm not going to change what I do because that's, that's me. So.
I love that. Find yourself and be yourself unapologetically. That is that's a beautiful statement. Yeah, and yeah, I appreciate hearing that. That's just that's warming advice. Okay, well, I'm gonna have only a couple more questions here for you,
Yeah.
and we like to keep these short, 45 minutes to an hour, and then we'll have ParkS on again because ParkS, you're very easy to talk to,
I appreciate
and
that.
there will be multiple recurring guests on Laying It Down with Big D. And we got Impact starting here soon, I believe.
Yeah.
So we'll be gripping and ripping for some co-casts. I demand to come back on there for the community cast.
We'll get you on. Don't worry. Plenty of space for
good.
that.
So here I'm gonna ask you a question. I've got 2 questions here for you.
Yeah.
And kind of 3, but these 2 go together because it's about Canada, and I want to hear your opinion about this. Do they what is Canadian bacon in Canada? Is it just regular bacon?
I think it's ham. up here.
Do you guys?
So
Do
we
you
have
guys
bacon.
call? Yeah.
So, or it's you're talking about like pea meal bacon, where it's like a thicker slice. It's kind of got like it's like an inch thick. Kind of looks like a bit of a disc.
Yeah, and it's just ham,
that's
right?
pea meal bacon up here, I think.
It's called what?
Pea meal bacon. Yeah, PEMEAL. Pea meal bacon. I might be spelling it wrong. What we consider regular bacon up here is like the thin strip, like it's maybe 1.5 inches across, and it's like 6 or 7 inches, and it really like curls up on itself, like kind of like the stereotypical
like,
TV show, like they're cooking eggs and bacon, that kind of bacon.
Yeah,
that's regular.
So it's
bacon
just normal. You guys do have normal bacon
yes,
up there, right?
Absolutely.
Cured pork belly.
Yeah.
Turned bacon.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Pea meal bacon is very good, though. It is very good.
Yeah, baby, Eggs Benedict is one of my favorite meals of all time. You put some of that. I'm gonna be calling it pea meal bacon from now on. I'm done calling. We're tearing down these fictional borders around the world. We're starting with food. So then my other question about Canadian cuisine, while I've got you here. I'm sure you can guess, but what are your thoughts on poutine, and should everybody travel to Canada to have some or learn how to make it at home? Where do you stand on poutine?
I think poutine is really good. I would say it's worth a trip up. I think the careful thing you have to do is you can't just like come to Canada and go to wherever to get poutine. You have to go to like a place that is renowned for its poutine, because otherwise you might just get something that's kind of it's whatever, and then you get a bad experience. My personal recommendation, and I got 2 of them. Personal recommendation for reasons to come to Canada have good food is on the dessert side. We have something called a Nanaimo bar, and it's named that after the city it was made in British Columbia. Amazing things. I'm gonna hold on. Let me type up Nanaimo bar. So I can actually. It's like a crunchy bottom that's like a coconut crumb base, and then you've got a custard filling, and then you've got like a piece of chocolate on top, like a flat piece of chocolate, kind of like just like a little thing. It is so good, and it is one of the most underrated things that people, when they come to Canada, they just don't know what it is, so they don't try it. Nanaimo bars are insane. I love them. And then the other dessert I have that I absolutely love is a butter tart. And I think butter tarts might exist down there, but like you get a butter tart, and the filling has to have like pecans in it. There are raisin butter tarts. I'm not a huge fan of the raisin butter tarts. Pecan butter tarts are the best. And it's literally just like it's like a lemon tart. You know, you got like the lemon filling on the inside of the thing. It's a small thing, but it's filled with like a different filling, and that filling is just amazing. And I was talking to American friends about this, and they're like, I have no idea what this is. And I went, you guys are missing out so much. There's so many good, like Marky came up here, and his dad is from Canada, so when he came up for Laundersland, and he bought like a few packs of like Coffee Crisp chocolate bars, and he brought them home, and his dad's like, oh, this is gonna last me forever. And he told me his dad ate like a whole pack in like the space of half a day, and was like, I can't stop. So there's a lot of good candy up here, and it gets underratedly, it's underappreciated from the American side, because all they think of is poutine, and that's good. There's so many like good snack foods, good cookies and stuff up here. So many good desserts that are just, they're waiting for everyone. I'm salivating thinking about it. I'm gonna have to eat something afterwards, just like to fill the craving.
Yeah, I had no idea about all this. I guess you could say that Canada has good candy. Okay,
Yes, you're
that's it.
100% correct. I'll take it. I like that joke.
Well, I didn't know about a Nanaimo. What is it?
Na-
Nanaimo or Anaimo?
Nanaimo.
Nanaimo. Yeah, I didn't know about a Nanaimo bar, but that tickles my fancy
Yeah,
quite hard, I have to tell you.
they
Okay,
listen. They're
well,
great.
Canadian cuisine aside, that is not going to be it for us, but I do want to ask you this last question, then that will be it for us.
Yeah,
Uh, what kind of we've talked a lot about like what casters in general could like how to get into casting, how to get started, what the path and journey kind of looks like.
yeah.
But if you could give any advice to any young person out there, anybody struggling in life, anybody just needing it at this moment right now, what kind of advice would you give on anything? Anything. This is just kind of your open forum
Open forum.
to get on a soapbox and preach, baby.
I think the biggest thing is spend time with people who want to spend time with you. And that's been a thing, at least for me recently, that I've really struggled with is like trying to find, because you have the friend groups and they don't last forever. Sometimes people leave because they have work or other obligations. And you need to find the people that will spend time with you doing whatever. And like I have one friend, I'm gonna shout her out, Tatiana Ma, my friend T4T Tiana. She is awesome. And I'm lucky enough that she lives relatively close by. She only lives like an hour away from me. So we have the opportunities to hang out and do stuff basically. But this is advice that goes, I could have a friend who lives in Colorado and like I'll do the exact same thing. Like, let's just hang out. And it's spending the time with the people that want to spend time with you and just, hey, I have a work obligation that like I need to do something like honestly, it's kind of like homework for work. You want to just like talk while I go through it? Can you like bounce ideas with me? And she's always down to do it. And that's just I love that. I need something like that, and I need more of that. Because humans are social creatures, and as much as being on a camera and being in a being on a computer is great, and like yes, there are so many things, there's so many people out there. It's the actual relationship that you one-on-one talk to somebody and you can feel comfortable around them and you can tell them stuff, and it's not going to be out on the internet for everybody to see. It's just for that person to see. I think that's a big thing, and I'm so fortunate to have a few of those friends, and I've been a bit bad on that in terms of being able to be around for other people, but it's one of those things that you constantly have to work at in terms of knowing who your friends are and knowing in terms of who you can just hang out with and who you can just be yourself, be have time for them and let them have time for you. So I think that's a big thing of in this world of like an individualistic world, I can just do whatever I want. You also want to have those relationships and just do stuff with friends, with family. That's a big thing. Just keep, you know, we're not meant to be alone. We're meant to be with people. So definitely spend time doing stuff with people and having a good time. And yeah, if it's a stream that you're having your friends watch you because it's a single player game, if it's going as much as gamers hate it, going outside and playing like a physical game or even just walking with somebody, like going for a drive, getting groceries, that kind of stuff, like spend some time talking to people. That's a big thing. Like I talk to people at my job. I spend that if I didn't talk to people at my job, I would go crazy because I like talking, and even if it's not about anything important, I like just telling stuff about people about my day. I like telling people about what's happening in my life because that's at the end of the day, we're all just we want to belong somewhere, and that means spending time with people.
I love that. Yeah. And you don't necessarily have to get off the internet
No,
to spend time with people. But if you're chronically online,
you should,
it's
you
definitely, it
should
will
probably go
behoove
outside.
you, yeah, to go outside and talk to some real people. I know I go through that. I went through kind of an emotional experience of going to Frag recently and
Yeah,
going to IEM the last couple of years. And so you spend all this time inside at your computer with these esports, and then you think, man, I'm alone in the world because it's hard to meet people
yeah.
that do that same thing as you. Go to some events and meet the people that love it just as much as you do. You will realize you're not alone at all.
The fir-
And there's
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
The first time I went to IEM Dallas in 2023, I on the flight, like I spent a little bit of time after the event chilling with some people in the airport, and honestly, like when I reached home and I like landed in Toronto, I cried because I was like,
Yeah.
that experience was just it goes you go through the entire emotional spectrum on it of just what the fuck like I just felt validated by all this stuff that I've done, as alone as I felt, as alone as I've been doing this like solo grind, like going and doing that and going to all these events, like especially when I went to like Saudi Arabia and Sweden, like doing that stuff and just being around people that just we had the same goals, we had the same objective when we were there, like we just wanted to spend time and have a good time around players and everything. It was magical. It was crazy good. And it's that kind of stuff that keeps me going and keeps me coming back to doing this stuff. Because I could have left long ago after anything and everything had happened throughout any of my term of being in esports and gone, yeah, I'm good. I'm going to go to the next game now. I could have gone to COD. I could have watched COD. I could have gone to, Overwatch. I could have gone to however many other esports there are out there that, might be small, but they have a good community around them. I've done it before. I've gone to other esports communities and I've before I got into Counter-Strike. And yeah, it's one of those things like events, like they keep you locked in.
They're the glue that holds everything together for sure. That you realize that, especially with a game like Counter-Strike, but I think gaming in general, as nice as being able to play our games online is, the true like power of gaming comes through going to events or seeing what it's like to be played on LAN, and you're like, oh, this is how it's meant to be. So, well, okay, ParkS, Scott Park. Just Park, by the way.
Ooh.
Thank you so much for
Trying to
joining
lay
us.
it down here in the last second.
yeah, lay it down.
All
I
right.
see that bed back there. Next time you got to lay it down on the bed. But
You can't hear me
All
with
right.
my mic from there. I would otherwise.
That's true. That's true. All right, we're cutting the recording.